The woman standing quietly at the cafe counter looked like an ordinary tired mother. Her clothes were simple. Her hair was tied back. She carried an old brown handbag that looked like it had been used for years. Nobody in the cafe recognized her, not even the two cashiers behind the counter. The woman smiled politely and said, "1 medium coffee, please." The first cashier looked at her from head to toe. Then she whispered to the second cashier, "She looks like she cannot even afford this place." The second cashier laughed, but neither of them knew who was standing in front of them. The woman was named Evelyn Carter. And she was not just another customer. She was the owner of the cafe. She had opened the first branch 15 years earlier with nothing but a small kitchen and a dream. Over the years, her cafe had become a successful chain with 12 locations across the city, but Evelyn never behaved like a rich woman. She believed money should never change the way a person treated others. That morning, she decided to visit one of her newest branches without telling the manager. She wanted to see how customers were treated when nobody knew she was watching. She had barely reached the counter when the first cashier, named Madison, rolled her eyes. "Cash only." Evelyn looked surprised. "I thought you accepted cards." Madison sighed. "We do, but the machine is slow." "Just give me cash." Evelyn quietly handed her a bill. Madison took it without saying thank you. Then she turned toward her coworker Jessica. "Another one of those people who come here to waste our time." Jessica laughed. Then something happened that made Evelyn freeze. Madison leaned closer to Jessica and said people like her should not even be allowed inside places like this. Evelyn heard every word, but she stayed calm. She picked up her coffee and walked toward a corner table. She sat down. She took one sip. Then she noticed something strange. A young employee came out from the kitchen carrying a tray. Madison immediately shouted, "Why are you so slow?" The young employee lowered her head. "Sorry, I am trying." Madison pointed toward the back. "Go clean the storage room. You are useless." Evelyn watched silently. Then the young employee looked toward Evelyn. Their eyes met. There was fear in the girl's face. Evelyn knew something was wrong. She walked toward her. "What is your name?" The girl hesitated. "Lily." "How long have you worked here, Lily?" 3 months. "And do you like working here?" Lily looked toward Madison. Then she whispered, "I used to." Evelyn understood. She returned to her table. A few minutes later, the manager entered the cafe. Madison immediately changed her attitude. "Good morning, sir. Everything is perfect today." The manager smiled. "That is good. The owner is visiting next week." Madison laughed. "I hope she does not come here looking like a homeless woman." Jessica covered her mouth to hide her laughter. Evelyn slowly placed her coffee on the table. The manager had not noticed her yet. Then Madison said something that made the entire cafe go silent. "If the owner ever came here dressed like that, I would refuse to serve her." Evelyn stood up. She picked up her handbag. Then she walked directly toward the manager. "Excuse me." The manager turned. "Yes, Mom." Evelyn looked at Madison. Then Jessica. Then the manager. "I have a question. Who owns this cafe?" The manager smiled. "That would be Mrs. Evelyn Carter." Evelyn nodded. "Interesting." The manager looked confused. "Why?" Evelyn opened her handbag. She pulled out a small black card. She placed it on the counter. The manager looked down. His face turned pale. The card had one name printed on it. Evelyn Carter, owner and founder. Nobody spoke. Madison stopped breathing. Jessica stared at Evelyn. The manager whispered, "Mrs. Carter." Evelyn smiled. "Yes, I am the woman you refuse to respect." Madison immediately stepped forward. "Mrs. Carter, I am sorry." Evelyn raised her hand. "Do not apologize yet, because I heard something much worse than an insult. I heard how you treated Lily." The young employee looked terrified. Evelyn turned toward her. "Lily, come here." Lily slowly walked forward. Evelyn asked, "Tell me everything." Lily looked at Madison. Then she began to cry. "Madison has been taking money from my tips." Jessica has been helping her. The manager looked shocked. What? Lily continued. They told me if I said anything they would make sure I never found another job. The cafe became completely silent. Evelyn looked at Madison. Then she asked, "Is that true?" Madison shook her head. "No, Mom, she is lying." Evelyn looked at Jessica. "And you?" Jessica lowered her eyes. Evelyn smiled sadly. Then she said, "I did not come here today to punish anyone. I came here to see who my company really was." She looked around the cafe. "And now I know." But Evelyn had not yet discovered the biggest secret, because when the manager opened the staff records, he found something shocking. Madison had been changing employee schedules. She had been stealing tips. She had been forcing workers to pay her money. And someone higher than her had been protecting her. Evelyn stared at the documents. Who signed these reports? The manager looked nervous. "He slowly answered, your son." Evelyn froze. "My son." The manager nodded. "Daniel Carter." Evelyn had not heard that name in months. Her own son had been secretly managing the cafe chain, and suddenly everything made sense. Evelyn had trusted him with her company, but someone had been using her name to destroy everything she built. Evelyn looked at the manager. "Call Daniel right now." The manager picked up his phone, but before he could dial the number, Evelyn noticed another document on the desk. She picked it up. Her face changed. The document was a transfer agreement. Her son had been preparing to sell several of her cafes. Without her permission, Evelyn whispered, "What have you done, Daniel?" Then her phone rang. It was Daniel. She answered. His voice sounded nervous. "Mom, where are you?" Evelyn looked around the cafe, then she smiled. "I am exactly where I need to be." Daniel went silent. Evelyn continued, "And tonight we are going to have a very long conversation. Because I just discovered what my own son has been doing behind my back." The call ended. Evelyn looked at Lily. Then she looked at the two cashiers. Her voice became calm. "Tomorrow morning this cafe will be different. But tonight I am going to find out how deep this betrayal goes." She walked toward the door, then stopped. Without turning around, she said, "And Madison, do not leave the city. I am not finished with you yet." Madison began to cry, because she finally realized something. She had insulted the one woman who had the power to change her entire life. But Evelyn still did not know that Daniel had one final secret, a secret that would make the betrayal far worse than anyone imagined. That night, Evelyn returned home and placed the transfer agreement on her dining table. She stared at it for several minutes. Daniel had always been her favorite child. After his father died, Evelyn had raised him alone. She had worked 14 hours a day. She had skipped vacations. She had sold her jewelry to open the first cafe. And when the business became successful, she gave Daniel everything he wanted. She gave him a position. She gave him authority. Most importantly, she gave him her trust. Now that trust was sitting on the table in the form of a fraudulent transfer agreement. At midnight, Evelyn heard the front door open. Daniel walked inside. He looked calm, too calm. "Mom, why did you call me?" Evelyn looked at him. "Sit down." Daniel sat. Evelyn placed the document in front of him. "What is this?" Daniel stared at the paper. Then he looked away. "It is nothing. Nothing. You tried to sell my cafes." Daniel swallowed. "Mom, I was trying to expand the company. You forged my signature." Silence. Evelyn leaned forward. "Do you know what hurt me most today?" Daniel said nothing. It was not Madison. It was not Jessica. It was not even the money. It was realizing that my own son created a company where employees were afraid to speak. Daniel finally looked at her. "Mom, I can explain." Then explain. Daniel took a deep breath. "I borrowed money." "How much?" Daniel stayed silent. "How much, Daniel?" "Almost $3 million." Evelyn closed her eyes. "Why?" Daniel finally confessed. "I lost it in investments. I thought I could recover everything. Then I borrowed more and more, until I could not stop." Evelyn stared at her son. You were selling my cafes to pay your debts. Daniel nodded, but there was more. Evelyn knew it. Who helped you? Daniel looked terrified. Nobody. Evelyn stood. Do not lie to me again. Daniel finally whispered, your business partner. Evelyn froze. My business partner. Daniel nodded. Victor Hale. Evelyn immediately understood. Victor had been trying to buy her company for years. She had always refused. Now she realized he had entered through her own son. Evelyn picked up her phone. Call Victor. Daniel shook his head. Mom, please call him. Victor answered after the second ring. Good evening, Evelyn. I was wondering when you would discover the truth. Evelyn felt her blood run cold. You knew, of course I knew. Victor laughed. Your son needed money. I gave it to him. In exchange, he promised me control of your company. Evelyn looked at Daniel. You used my son. Victor replied, no, Evelyn. Your son used himself. Then the call ended. Evelyn did not sleep that night. The next morning, she returned to the cafe. But this time, she did not arrive as a customer. She arrived as the owner. Every employee gathered in the main seating area. Madison stood in the back with tears in her eyes. Jessica stood beside her. Lily stood near Evelyn. Evelyn looked at everyone. I built this company because I believed people deserved dignity. Then she turned toward Madison. You stole from your coworkers. You threatened them. You humiliated them. Madison began crying. Mrs. Carter, I am sorry. Evelyn nodded. I believe you are sorry, but being sorry does not erase what happened. She turned toward the manager. Give Madison and Jessica their final paperwork. Both women looked shocked. Then Evelyn turned toward Lily. You are now the assistant manager of this location. Lily stared at her. Me, yes. You were afraid to speak because people used their power against you. I want you to become someone who protects others from that kind of abuse. Lily began crying. Thank you. Evelyn smiled. Then the manager approached her with another file. Mrs. Carter, you should see this. Evelyn opened it. Inside were financial records from every cafe. Her face became serious. The theft was much larger than she expected. Millions of dollars had disappeared. Daniel had not acted alone. Several managers were involved. Victor had been quietly taking control for almost 2 years. Evelyn looked at the records. Then she smiled. The people who thought they were stealing my company had forgotten one thing. What? Evelyn looked toward the manager. I built it. She immediately contacted her lawyers. Within days, the fraudulent agreements were canceled. The stolen money was traced. The corrupt managers were removed. Victor lost access to the company, and Daniel had to face the consequences of his choices. But Evelyn did something nobody expected. She did not destroy her son. She gave him one final chance. Daniel, you are going to repay every dollar. You are going to work from the bottom, and you will earn back every piece of trust you destroyed. Daniel nodded through tears. I understand, Mom. Evelyn hugged him, but she whispered, I will always be your mother. That does not mean I will protect you from the consequences of your actions. Months later, Evelyn returned to the same cafe. She walked to the counter. Lily was working there. She smiled. Good morning, Mrs. Carter. Evelyn smiled. Good morning, Lily. What would you like today? Evelyn looked around. The cafe was busy. Customers were laughing. Employees were smiling. Nobody was afraid. Evelyn said just a coffee. Lily laughed, of course. As she handed Evelyn the cup, she whispered, you changed everything. Evelyn shook her head. No, you did. I only gave you a chance. Evelyn took her coffee and sat at the same table where she had sat months earlier. She looked at the counter. She remembered the 2 cashiers who had mocked her. She remembered the humiliation. She remembered discovering her son's betrayal. But she also remembered Lily, and she realized something important. Revenge was not about destroying the people who hurt you. Sometimes the greatest revenge was building something so strong that their betrayal could never destroy it. Evelyn took one sip of coffee, then smiled. Her cafe was no longer just a business. It had become a place where people learned that kindness mattered. And from that day forward, every new employee heard the same rule: treat every customer with respect, because you never know who is standing on the other side of the counter.